I was in a spaces with Vince recently, and we were talking about some storytelling stuff, and this had to do with. I think the theming for this had to do with something that happened recently with my hero and a certain character. I will not get into that. And we were talking about backstories and flashbacks being told in stories, and how certain authors do it, and if you're okay with them kind of shoehorning in something last second to kind of elevate or almost force an emotional reaction out of the reader or watcher, if you will, and I've never particularly been a fan of that, and something I struggle to do sometimes is not to get really cheeky and go into some like very obscure example, which is why I tend to use very basic ones. But Kishimoto does this a lot, and I've never been a fan of it because I think it's smart in the sense that if you have this in your back pocket as a last resort. I'd argue that he keeps a lot of gaps in time very ambiguous in terms of what happens. So when a character or villain or whatever needs to have a flashback or story to kind of contextualize whatever situation they're in or talk about their ideals, goals, and motivations, he'll use that time period to tell that flashback, but he does it right in the moment and doesn't build up to it. While I would argue that building up to that, dropping little breadcrumbs here and here, doing small little things to kind of explain that is a better way to do it. So let's talk about how Currygom does it and why I actually find it to be very, very interesting in its own right.
時々俺が綺麗どうもそして僕を見て頑張りますあのね Y'all talking time just tick away You ain't clocking hours on the day All that watch is stopping what you claim Dollar crosses real got me name Hoping God just get me out this game
Please like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell down so the Ghost of the 13-month series does not get you and you can stay notified. Also, check my description for all links like the intros and outros to the songs that I use in these videos. Follow me at Young Paperwork on Twitter and definitely follow the Twitch. Now, back to the video. I think some people misunderstand like when I bring up a situation like Karaka having the 180 character switch in something like Tower of God, because it is very believable for him to care about his master and being able to work with Bam to try to save him. The problem is that if you actually look at the artistry and the text throughout the narrative of Tower of God, there is nothing that actually tells you that. We as a fan base are rationalizing because we can connect those relationships and be like, okay, I guess it makes sense. It's not unbelievable, but if the author does not portray that in the story itself, you cannot give them credit for it. Give yourself credit. You're the one doing the work for them. I don't know. So I think this is the best example I can think of, and hopefully it doesn't confuse too many people. But if you've read or seen the third Harry Potter book or movie, The Prisoner of Azkaban, I want you guys to recall a situation where Harry, Ron, and Hermione had seen somebody scatter all the Dementors. And there was like a big thing, and he thought it was his father. Like, oh, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Long story short is there was some time shenanigans, and they were the ones actually very much a part of that epic moment, if you will. It was Harry. He's the one that actually does expel a Patronum. I can't remember the spell. It's been years. I'm sorry. Who actually gets rid of all the Dementors. What I find really fascinating about a lot of the big events in Kubera, flashbacks and stuff, and don't get it twisted, she does conventional flashbacks, and she does a thing that I like too, where she'll just kind of build up to it. Then when you get to the moment, you're like, oh, in season 2, when this happens, this is why. It's because this character had beef with Sora's as a result of their family being destroyed, X, Y, and Z. Like, there's that traditionalism in there too, but what I like about it is that the present time characters, because this is a narrative that has a lot of time shenanigans, also has multiple timelines and possibilities and universes. The present time characters are actually a part of the very history that they believe they're divorced from. What do I mean by that? I really like how a lot of her backstories come across because to me it's almost interactive. Obviously, I'm not playing a video game. I'm not personally making decisions, but seeing the present time characters in the past interacting with the very things that come full circle into the future and or present time in which they actually exist is actually a very interesting way to tell past events, in my opinion. And the reason that what I like about it so much is that, like I said, a lot of these characters like, oh yeah, the upheaval, or yeah, this thing happened and blah blah blah, and they think that they have nothing to do with it because they're born how many centuries or years or decades after the fact. And it's like, oh, you're actually low-key a part of this because of the way that time works in this story, because you could be moved backwards or forward in time. I mean, think about Lee's getting sent back to her past self in season 2 and how that came full circle with Callie. Like, that stuff is great. And I really appreciate that, because what it does to me is it makes it all feel very important, integral, and cohesive, because the characters that we are seeing who are alive right now doing things in the real timeline are also being sent back into the past, and as we're learning things that happened back in the day, they're also there too. And the cool thing about that as well is it kind of doesn't have that dramatic irony where you as the reader, watcher, or player know information that characters don't. It still happens in the story, obviously, but I'm saying if Rand is literally here and he played a part in keeping Rana alive, if you will, for example, then you have to go, that's interesting, because even right now, in the latest chapter that I read, Maruna probably didn't. It's like, nah, I don't remember seeing my past self or future self, so this is not possible. But it's like, it is possible. You see what I'm saying? So there's no one size fits all to tell a backstory or flashback. There isn't necessarily a right way to do it. You do it the way that works for your narrative. But I find that the fact that Currygom's characters are actually a part of it a lot of the times, even if you don't think so initially, adds this extra layer of connectivity that I really like about it. Let me know what you guys think. I hope I explained that well. I hope I explained that well. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I like to use Currygom as a frame to talk about a lot of the stuff in storytelling and writing that I studied and really like, because she's phenomenal at it. And yeah, I'm probably gonna start doing more stuff like this with some other ones some other authors I like Nishio Ishin. But yeah, Currygom's ability to have like an event. Oh yes, this happened in D34, and you're like, well, okay, well, you think when you will get that flashback and it's not going to be connected to anything, and it's like, no, we set Lee's back in time to this portion, and now she's seeing it play out too. So like, it's like she's like experiencing the flashback, the history, the backstory. Like, you're actually there in the experience, which is really cool. So all right, like, subscribe, hit the bell. You know the drill. I'm gonna be out.
In my drugs, pour it in my cup, sitting in my darkness with my ghouls, we pouring up. I don't really give a fuck, I don't really have a say. You tell me that I suck until you get up out my face. You got tears in your eyes, looking like a fool.